And President Biden heads to Europe in a few days following Trump's historic guilty conviction. That's not only impacting Americans, but of course, people worldwide. Here with us is political commentator and publisher of Sanity Clause on Substack, Joe Klein. Joe, welcome.
Hi, great to be here.
Good to have you. So we've been covering these issues that voters are most concerned about: the economy and immigration. That's been the case for several months now. Joe, how much will Trump's guilty verdict play into people's concerns about these top issues that I just mentioned?
Well, we don't know yet. There's a lot of anecdotal evidence on all sides. His website crashed yesterday because so many people were trying to contribute to his cause. But the thing to remember about issues and the presidency is that the presidency is our most intimate office. The president lives in our home for 4 years. And so personalities and the perceptions of people matter quite a bit. And in the end, inflation will mean something. Immigration may mean something. There are other issues that may come into play. But the most important factor is who you want to have in your living room. And here you have a guy who is brash and obnoxious running against a guy who, and I just saw him walking up to the microphone in your previous piece, President Biden, who seems doddering. So I think that question, the choice of two candidates that few people really want, is the overriding question, the question of personality as we move forward.
We've talked about the polls that have said people would not vote for Trump if he was found guilty. How does he overcome that stigma of now being a convicted felon that is running for president?
Well, he doesn't. He's going to try and say that this is a sham, but it's really a metaphor. Donald Trump tried to overthrow the government of the United States in 2020. There is a lawsuit that's sitting in the Supreme Court now about his guilt in that matter. The case that we just saw in New York is a kind of light version of the same thing. He was convicted of trying to manipulate the election in 2016 by covering up his affair with a porn star. So, we have a broad, deep record of the fact that this guy has tried to play with election results. And for his followers, it doesn't mean anything. For Democrats, his opponents, it means everything. The question is, what does it mean for that sliver, that 10 or 15% of the public that's undecided? Is this going to have an impact on them?
Joe, you mentioned that Trump's website crashed due to fundraising. I believe he raised $52 million since the verdict. Now, we know the response has gone down party lines. That's not very surprising. But how do we get past the political divide in this country?
Well, that is the most profound question facing this country right now. There have been other periods where we've been as divided as we are now. Obviously, there was a civil war at one, in 1860 over slavery. I don't think we're as divided as all that. In fact, when you look at the Congress, there is a bipartisan majority that's been passing an awful lot of legislation. The problem is this camera that I'm looking into. The problem is that television and the media and social media favors the screamers. Those of us who are in the middle of the spectrum don't get as much time. Thank you for having me on. But the fact is that the perceptions that people get when they watch television is that people are just screaming at each other. I've spent a lot of time traveling across the country talking to folks. Most Americans aren't extremists. And I think ultimately we're going to need a strong leader who is reassuring and can move us away from that kind of extremism. Joe Biden was elected with the promise that he wouldn't be as brash and noisy as Donald Trump. but he hasn't been able to convey the sense of strength that's necessary to lead the country away from all this shouting.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.